to our Patreons early, and we're going to start right now. You ready, Mr. Russo?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Truth with Consequences. I'm Matt Kuhn, and of course, I am here with the man, the architect of the Attitude Era, the infamous, the divisive, the, moving person, Mr. Vince Russo. How are you doing today, man?
I am doing all right, Mr. Matt Kuhn. I got to tell you, bro, you got this cool look. You got the Razor Ramon look going on today. You got this one little curl coming down over your forehead. Very cool, Mr. Kuhn.
Yeah, I can't help what the hair does. The hair does its own thing. Right now, in my mid-40s, I am just thankful to have it. And you have a full head of hair, too. That works for you, too, right?
Yeah, Matt, now let me ask you a question. Do you do the moose gimmick and then just mess up your hair and leave it where it falls, or do you actually comb or brush the hair?
I usually just comb or brush the hair. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, okay. Jeremy Borash used to get on me all the time because he says that's the difference between being cool and not cool. Because I put the gel in and then I brush the hair. Jeremy says that's not cool. You got to put the gel in and then go with the messy look. That's the cool gimmick.
Well, because if there's anybody that I can think of in the history of professional wrestling that personifies the word cool, it's Jeremy Borash.
JB, yeah. Bro, did I ever tell you my story? And, bro, there's no way in the world I could make this up, but he flat out denies it to this day. Bro, I'm talking about early Jeremy Borash when he really hadn't done anything in the business yet. Okay, nothing, right? Bro, we were working for WCW, and he was just an internet guy. He was working under Bob Ryder, you know what I mean? So, bro, I'm getting on a plane, and I'm passing Jeremy, and he's reading a book. And, bro, the cover is torn off the book. So I'm like, that your look right there. I'm like, bro, that's very peculiar. How does a cover get torn off a book?
That sounds
right?
That sounds purposeful.
Thank you. So of course my curiosity peaks, and I'm walking down the down the aisle in the plane. Hey, yeah, Jeremy, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. I got him totally distracted. I ripped the book right out of his hands. Okay? Matt, ask me what the title of the book was.
Was it Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?
How to Pick Up Women.
Oh.
And to this day, he denies it. I'm like, bro, seriously, you think I could actually make up a story like that? That was the book, bro. How to Pick Up Women. But I got to say this. A very young Jeremy Borash, because, bro, later on, man, Jeremy became a chick magnet, bro. Jeremy had his share of girls later on in TNA.
I want to say about 5 years ago, during, TNA was struggling, and they were doing those one-night deals, the one-night, pay-per-view deals,
Right,
and they had one in North Carolina at a casino. It was on a stage, and there's nobody there. And, there's a lot of good wrestlers there, like Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe and a lot of guys like that. And I'm looking at Borash. Borash is doing everything. He's announcing. He looked like he was producing the show.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
And he was also the announcer at the same time. He's running all the way behind us to climb up on the scaffolding where the cameras were. He's going back. He's running around. I'm like, this dude is holding together this place with glue,
God. Bro, if he had any kind of say-so, if he had any kind of stroke, if anybody would even listen to him at the WWE, they would be so much better off, bro.
You ever, you said you saw him reading a book on an airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever sat next to someone on an airplane who just sat there like a freaking lunatic, didn't do anything, just sat there? I've had that happen a couple times, we're talking a 4-hour flight, and the person, this, how insane do you have to be just to sit?
Yeah, no, that's crazy, bro. Yeah. That's right. I got so much. I bought an iPad when they first came out, and I loaded it up with TV shows and movies and shit. Thank God I had that for all my traveling, man.
Yeah, and I'm glad I always travel with the boy because he makes things interesting, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on. The show is on a roll. The last 2 shows have been our highest downloaded shows. The TNA show was great, and a lot of people really loved the St. Valentine's Day Massacre show. A lot of great feedback. Maybe more people remember that or interested in that than you remember, or is the feedback about what you'd expect?
No, bro, I think there's a lot more to talk about and a lot more to discuss than, what's, just dragged through the ringer for 10, 20, 25 years, man. There's so many things that have never been discussed that people are hearing for the first time. And I think that's interesting to people.
And it's a challenge to me, quite honestly, because you've been so generous over the last few years with your Russo fans, with the Russo brand and Pyro and Ballyhoo and everything. And it's been, I have to kind of research what you've already done and also realize we're reaching a bigger audience. But, for those people who like that full Vince Russo experience, go to russosbrand.com and you can check out how many shows a week is it now?
We're over 10 again. We've added more shows and we're over 10 again.
But 10 again, but Vince Russo's not like co-hosting 10 shows anymore, right?
No more. And I've really been able to concentrate on, the shows that were the main shows. The three main shows on the network are I do a Raw SmackDown review, a very detailed review with Ben Hameen and, of course, the great Stevie Richards. We do a Castrating the Marks, bro, where we look at all the dirt sheet writers. And then we do a news roundup every week with Disco Inferno. Those are the three main ones. I do other stuff, but those are really the heart and soul of the brand.
And you've created a culture where, some people who've been on your show have their own shows, like Mike Durbin has his own show. And you have a lot of stuff going on like that as well, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the brand, bro. Like, I really encourage people to get into podcasts. And if you want to try it out, I'll help you out. We could, we could put it on my channel. And, I encourage people to do that. The problem with podcasting, though, is, Matt, and this is, consistency, man. You've got to keep at it. You can't do 3 shows and quit. It takes a while, bro, to to have a successful show.
And, that leads us in exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about Vince Russo leaves WCW, and at the same time, very relatedly, the Radicals left WCW, and you talking about being consistent, having to be there, having to go week after week after week, signed to a year contract by WCW. You had
2 years.
2-year contract.
Right.
But given a year, like you said, I need a year to turn this around.
Right.
That's basically the story. At what point and let's talk before January 2000. So, you do the first month, October, November, Starrcade. At what point did it become apparent to you that the guys kind of giving you those looks, as you said before, whispering about you?
Yeah.
At what point did it become overt?
Matt, I could tell you, and I don't think I've ever said this before. I can remember something that stands out so vividly in my mind. It was a TV taping very early on. Maybe it was our second TV taping, maybe our third, very early on, where I was hanging out in the back and I was sitting on, one of those big cases where, they store the audio or the video equipment. I was sitting on the case and I was sitting next to Bill Bush and it was just the two of us. Okay. And I remember Bill Bush turned to me and he goes, man, this is fun. I'm having a great time. This is really fun. And I looked at Bill and I'm like, well, bro, it's supposed to be fun. I mean, like, this is the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be having fun. And I mean, he was genuine. Like, he was like a little kid. Like, man, like all the horror stories I heard and everything I heard about wrestling, like, this is fun. So just wait,
Bill Bush. Just wait.
Just wait, Bill Bush. But that's my point, Matt. It can be fun, but it's almost impossible. Bro, I know when the problem started. I know how the problem started. I wasn't oblivious to the problems. I knew what the outcome was going to be, and nothing happened that surprised me. And I always go back to, bro, it all started with Kevin Sullivan and J.J. Dillon. Every time I turned around, bro, they were having a sidebar, And the minute I would catch them in the corner of my eye, they would flee and go their separate ways. And that happened on many, many occasions. I'm talking about, Matt, less than a month in. And I know what triggered it. I know exactly what happened. I knew it then. And I was like, okay, bro, let's just let this thing play out, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that pay for it and not me.
There's no dispute that J.J. Dillon and Kevin Sullivan had their doubts about Vince Russo. Reading from the Nitro book, Kevin Sullivan, an assortment of industry veterans conveyed their concern over WCW's direction, including Kevin Sullivan. And after admittedly looking the other way first, J.J. Dillon, I told J.J., remember Sullivan, the Titanic has hit the iceberg and we've got 2 hours to evacuate. And so that's the kind of talk that's going on behind your back at the time. Does that surprise you at all?
And I got to tell you something, Matt. See, this is where, insert anybody else and we're burying Kevin Sullivan. Bro, during that time, Kevin Sullivan is serving as my friend. He's involved, booking meetings. I remember one time we went out to sushi together. So, he's serving on my friend while he's saying this to J.J. Dillon. And Matt, I got to tell you something. I was a Kevin Sullivan mark. Kevin Sullivan, bro, the Dungeon of Doom and all that shit, the Varsity Club. I like that shit. Bro, even after the fact, I had Kevin Sullivan. I interviewed him on my show. I've run into him at conventions and stuff. I don't have a bad thing to say about Kevin Sullivan. I really don't. Bro, that's the nature of the beast. It's the wrestling business, bro. As a man, take Kevin Sullivan away from wrestling. I enjoy my conversations with him. I learned a lot from him. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Sullivan.
I watched a bit of that interview that you did with Kevin Sullivan. You guys didn't really get into the confrontational thing about what happened, right? You guys kind of just skirted around it a little bit. Was it uncomfortable for both of you to kind of get into it?
Well, I don't, bro, I know what happened. I know what the facts are. I don't want to I could tell you this, Matt, after all that shit went down and WCW folded tent, bro, it was a couple of years later that I saw both J.J. Dillon and Kevin Sullivan at a convention. And as a matter of fact, bro, I saw Kevin Sullivan at the front desk of a hotel. And, bro, I went up to him. Kevin, bro, he was shocked. He was totally shocked. I mean, I could read his face. And, bro, you're talking about one of the best workers in the world. I could read his face, and he was, shocked. I actually apologized to JJ. Maybe we'll get into the story later on in this show, but the same thing with JJ.
I think you told it on a previous episode, right?
Yeah, I apologized to JJ, and the look on their faces, they could not believe it. But that's the thing with me, bro. When I look at guys like this, when I look at guys like Bruce, when I look at guys like Eric, part of the reason, Jim Cornette, part of the reason why there's no hatred on my part, it's the wrestling business, bro. It's what the wrestling business makes you. And me being from the outside, I can see it as clear as day. Bro, Bruce ain't really like Bruce is. Eric really isn't like Eric is, but you put them in that environment or around that environment, and, bro, they can be not very nice people at times.
Meltzer reports on the issue having to do with you leaving, but he says that long before Russo was replaced, several wrestlers had not so privately talked about banding together against Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan, because he was seen as the person who would eventually get Russo's job, although the belief was not this soon. Is that surprising you that people were kind of expecting already Sullivan?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all, bro. And I got to tell you something, bro. The stand that the Radicals took, I'll tell you right now, bro. I wish I could sit here and tell you that was pro Russo. Bro, that was much more anti-Sullivan than pro-Russo because they had no time to get to know me. Like it's not like they were my friends, you know. It's not like Benoit was my friend and Eddie was my friend and Dean. We didn't even have the opportunity to become friends yet. So the stand those guys took was definitely more anti-Sullivan, less pro-Russo.
And with those four in particular, they really did take a stand because it whittled down after you left from 15 to 20 wrestlers to about 7 or 8, including those four, Malenko, Guerrero, Benoit, and whom I forget, and Saturn. And it also kind of included Conan and included, and so by extension, Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrera, and also included Billy Kidman, Shane Douglas, but eventually just whittled down to those four. Meltzer also reports that the talk that Sullivan would get Russo's spot had been going on internally for weeks. And those who were friendly with Russo, and some who just simply liked Russo because they hated Sullivan more, had urged him, you, to use your power while you had it to cut Sullivan out of power.
Never, bro, can I tell you something? Not one single person said that to me, ever came to me and said, hey, bro, you know Kevin's positioning for your job, blah, blah. Not that conversation never took place with anybody, bro. I kept what I was seeing within. I knew what was happening from what I was seeing. There was not one single person, bro, who attempted to smarten me up. Not one.
It goes on to say the belief was that you thought you could handle the situation, but what you're saying is that no one friendly to you, no one who was friendly to your cause or who liked you came to you and said, dude, get Sullivan out. He's coming for you.
No, and that was probably, bro, because they didn't expect it to happen as quickly as it did. That's probably why. Now, if it would have went on a little longer, I'm sure that would have happened. Bro, we're talking about less than 3 months here. So I think people thought, okay, bro, they got to give this guy at least 6 months. So, like, I think the fact that it was so quick, people weren't putting that much emphasis on it.
Overtly, things started happening for you right about Starrcade. According to the Nitro book, which isn't unkind to you, by the way. It seems to be a fair reading of what went on then. The Nitro book said on a Thursday afternoon before Starrcade, Russo was summoned for a large meeting involving Bush, Dillon, Ferrara, Sullivan, and Nash, among others. At the outset, Bush implored the room to share their honest feelings about the product, revealing his own concerns in the process. Russo sat silent as the conversation moved on, utterly dumbfounded as Dillon, a key facilitator in his signing, rattled off his own observed issues. Finally, Russo had seen and heard enough. I can't believe you guys, he allegedly thundered, banging his hands on the desk. You motherfuckers, he continued, now standing.
Well, I could tell you that is not true.
You're stabbing me in... Well, let me just finish.
Yeah, let me... Bro, stop with the MFers.
Okay. Yeah,
that is not me, bro. Even before Christianity, that is not me. So I'm going along with the story, but I can tell you that was never said.
So maybe you said, you frickin' marks. He continued, now standing. You're stabbing me in the back. I can't believe this after all I've done. Do you remember that meeting taking place?
Yeah, bro, but that wasn't my take on it. The guy's got it half right. And what I'm going to tell you, Matt, is not going to surprise you because it's going to be what Vince Russo would say. That meeting did indeed take place, and then this is where I'm now hearing this shit. I'm sitting there not saying nothing. So, Matt, when they're all done with their opinions, bro, this is what it always goes back to with these freaking people. Their opinions. JJ's opinion of the show. Eric Bischoff's opinion of the show. Bruce Pritchard's opinion of the show. That's what they think the show should be. So I sat there, said nothing, and then what did I say, bro? I said, why are we having this meeting when the numbers are going up? I said, guys, the numbers are going up in the right direction. We've got the data. Here are the numbers. The numbers are going up. So quite frankly, your opinions of what the product should be really don't matter. All that matters is the opinion of the audience. You brought me in here starting at a 2.6. That was the last show that Benoit and Bret Hart had a 3-segment wrestling match. That show was a 2.6. We're here 90 days later. The last show did a 3.6. Why are we having this meeting? That's what it always goes back to facts. Bro, we're all entitled to our opinions. Your opinion doesn't mean shit. Bro, freaking Bruce Bochy is manager of the Giants. Of course I've got an opinion of how we should set the lineup. That my opinion doesn't mean shit. What matters is what's going to be that winning lineup. The freaking numbers are up, and you guys are totally ignoring that. That was what I said.
You know, and I think we can talk about the numbers later, but in talking about those numbers, at that point, at the Starrcade point, you know, you're about 9 weeks in, and the numbers on average were actually a little bit lower than they would be the 9 weeks previous.
I mean, I would say the 9 months previous, but I'm going from where I picked up the show. And I picked up the show at a 2.6. That was the last show you did, bro. I'm not going back 9 weeks. I'm not going back 6 months. The last show you did when I started was a 2.6.
Right. And so by the time 2.6 was October 11th, 1999. And, you know, by the end of the ratings in December were 3.0, 2.8, 3.2, 2.9. And actually, you know, like I said, the average in that 9 weeks versus the previous 9 weeks was lower. But, you know, January picked up big time post Starrcade. Let's talk a little bit about Starrcade and the pay-per-view before. Those are the only 2 pay-per-views you had under your belt, right? Those were really the only 2.
Well, no. I mean, okay. Which one are you talking about now?
Starrcade and Mayhem.
When you got to give me months now.
Okay,
what
Starrcade is December 19th.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then Mayhem is November 21st.
Okay, yeah, because pretty much Halloween Havoc was already pretty much booked.
Right.
So we kind of just rolled with that, with what they had. So yeah, bro, we would have started booking the pay-per-views in November.
So going by those, the buy rates were significantly down. I know you've said your job was ratings, but I think maybe pay-per-view rates are a reflection of that being effective or not. You know, from Starrcade 1998. Did a 1.15. Starrcade 99 did a 0.32. That's a significant drop. What do you attribute that kind of drop to? Is that more about kind of what happened during the course of the year, or were things not working?
Oh, I mean, it's a couple of things. Number one, what was happening through the course of the year? The pay-per-view buys were going down an entire year before we even got there. That's number one. Number two, thanks to me and Ed Ferrara, the WWE is kicking our ass. So at the end of the month, when you have money to pay for one pay-per-view, you're getting the WWE pay-per-view. You're not getting WCW. There's no more NWO. There's no more Hogan, Nash, and Scott Hall. Those days are over, bro. So now, you know, the WWE is kicking our ass. They're buying the WWE pay-per-view. Number three, bro, we've got to tear down this house and start from the first brick. And that starts with the backbone and what's going on with television. Once you bring up the television ratings, everything else is going to follow, not just pay-per-view, but merchandise, house shows, ticket sales. The more eyeballs that are watching your show on TV, everything else will follow. So you've got to concentrate on the weekly TV product first. Bro, I didn't care about November's pay-per-view. I didn't care about December's pay-per-view. That was already destroyed. They already killed their own pay-per-view business. Bro, we got to go in here and start from scratch.
And would you say the same thing about the house show attendance where
Absolutely. I would say the same. I don't even know the merchandise numbers, and I could tell you merchandise numbers were down. Everything was down, bro. So the first thing you've got to do is bring the customers back to the product. That's the first thing you got to do. And the product is Nitro.
And with the drop in the pay-per-view, with the drop in the house shows, December of '99 was like 3,500 versus 10,000 the year before. Is there anything in all those, the drop in merchandise, all that kind of stuff, at any of that do you lay at the feet of Vince Russo of having any responsibility for any of that?
Matt, you got to understand, I told them, guys, this is going to take a year. I told them that up front. I knew how long it took to rebuild the ratings because we did it at WWE. I made it clear to them, guys, you want this overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. We've got to tear down and build up. Matt, I'm going to go back to baseball. The last 2 years, my team, the Giants, have sucked. They're going to suck this year because they've got to break down and they've got to build back up. They got to build up the farm system. They got to get a new, fresh rookie crop in there. So you're going to have those thin years where you're rebuilding. And I wasn't telling them years. I said, guys, we need a year. You've got to give me a year to get this back where it needs to be. So absolutely not. You think I'm telling them that in October and I'm worried about a November pay-per-view?
We're going to talk a little bit about some of the factors, that kind of led to this as well. One is Goldberg, and we'll go down these kind of one by one as they happen. But Goldberg gets injured early December, I believe.
Well, bro, can we start where I think this really started? And again, bro, this is where Vince Russo should be burying people. I love Ric Flair. Ric Flair knows I love him. Ric Flair knows that, my God, every time I saw him at TNA, my face would light up like a child. And I would make the biggest fuss over seeing Rick. Okay, bro, to this day, I love Ric Flair. But, bro, if I had to guess, that's where it started. The night we left Ric Flair off in the desert, where we had a plan in mind, we knew where we were going, this thing had to play out, bro, I guarantee you he immediately got in the ear of J.J. Dillon. Him and J.J. go back, guys. We know the Four Horsemen. There's a friendship there. Ric Flair, wrestlers are all paranoid, not just Ric Flair. Ric Flair's thinking, holy shit, I just got dropped in the desert. This guy's not going to use me anymore. He's pushing all these young guys, yada, yada, yada. I guarantee you he got in JJ's head. That also at the same time, we had Hogan at Halloween Havoc because we had to get Hogan off of TV. So I think we had Hogan lay down for Sting or Sting lay down for Hogan. I don't even remember. So now, bro, when you've got Flair and Hogan going to JJ and Bill Bush and, and bro, there isn't a better worker in the business than Hulk Hogan. I mean, there isn't. And Bill Bush is so inexperienced. He had no idea, like, okay, these guys obviously have an agenda, blah, blah, blah. He had no idea. But, bro, let's be honest. That's where it all started.
And in spite of all that, in spite of the politics, Hogan might be upset talking to Bischoff, who's got some weird meetings going on, and then you've got Flair going back to JJ, who's with the company, Kevin Sullivan, who wants your job. In spite of that, you have to run the company, and the talent you had to run the company, it starts diminishing.
Don't say run the company, bro. Just say run creative, because I'm not running the company, bro. I have nothing to do with running the company.
So you only have so many characters that you can write with, and so with and one of the main people was Goldberg. In December 23rd of 1999, Goldberg gets injured. He is supposed to break a windshield with an item. He drops the item. He tries to break it anyway. He's upset about something else that happened that night. And in doing so, he injures himself. And now he's out of your plans. What was your reaction to Goldberg getting hurt?
Bro, it's kind of like anything else. That's not an excuse. When somebody gets hurt, it's not an excuse. You hear it all the time in sports. When people are going to get hurt all the time, that's not an excuse. Is it a devastating blow? Absolutely, without a doubt. Is it going to affect the entire deck? Absolutely, without a doubt. But I would never, ever use, bro, somebody getting hurt as an excuse, because you got to bring somebody else up, bro. You got to get creative. You got to put steam on somebody else. I would never, ever say, oh, shit, bro, Goldberg got hurt and that effed me up. I would never say that, bro, because there are injuries in wrestling all the time.
The Nitro that takes place before you leave WCW, the plan is for the pay-per-view coming up, I believe it's sold out. You have Jeff Jarrett wrestling 3 different matches, I think. And then you also have Goldberg against Bret Hart, I think. And, Goldberg is now out, so that can't happen.
And Jeff's out. Jeff got hurt.
Let's talk about the Nitro before. The Nitro before everything happened. Jeff Jarrett is in a steel cage match closing out Nitro. Takes a couple moves. Takes a headbutt off the top from Benoit and a.
Can I tell you what effed? No, bro. You know what effed up Jeff Jarrett?
Was the splash from Superfly Snuka.
Bro, Jeff was so hot at me over that, bro. Jeff never got hurt. That concussed him. And, bro, Jeff didn't even tell me it concussed him. His wife called me without him knowing it and said, bro, he won't tell you this. Vince, he's out of it. I've never seen Jeff like this. He's completely out of it. His wife called me to let me know.
So how great of an idea was it to have Jimmy Snuka go off the top of the cage on Jeff Jarrett then? This is a guy who hadn't been in the main limelight. It's not like he did the jump off the cage every week or did it more than a couple times in his career. How much responsibility is there in WCW for putting Jeff Jarrett maybe in an unsafe situation?
Bro, I don't think that's unsafe at all. I mean, I don't, bro. He, Snuka done that a million times. Bro, if Jeff would have thought it was unsafe, Jeff would have said so. Me and Jeff were friends. It wasn't an employee. It wasn't that at all. If Jeff thought it was unsafe, he would have said something, but never in my wildest dreams did I think Jeff's going to get concussed off a splash.
So there goes your 3 matches now with Jeff Jarrett, and at least you still have Bret Hart. Bret Hart wrestled Starrcade. He got a super kick. Not a super kick, a sidekick from Goldberg in the head, and he still wrestled. He wrestled the Nitro and appeared on the Thunder before this event, but then you get news, Bret Hart can't wrestle. He's got a concussion, right?
Right.
So now you're left with a pay-per-view to do. No Bill Goldberg. This is in the span of like 2 weeks, a week and a half. No Bill Goldberg. No Jeff Jarrett, who's going to wrestle 3 matches. No Bret Hart. What is your plan at this point?
This is what you talk about, and Matt, and I'm not using those injuries as an excuse. I'm not. People get hurt in wrestling all the time. You got to write around injuries every single week, bro. But this is where you call as a writer, Matt. Now we got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Okay, bro, we got what we got, bro. We've got to make this work. So, bro, what I did was I called a meeting with creative. It was me, it was Terry, Bill Banks, Disco Inferno, JB was probably there, Ed was probably there. But anyway, okay, guys, here are the circumstances. So, bro, we laid out there was going to be a Royal Rumble type battle royal to determine a new champion. Okay, bro? And the story was Sid is number one. Okay, bro? So we go through 30 guys and Sid's still in there. He's still in there, bro. By the time we get to the last guy and we kind of don't know who it is, Sid's in the ring by himself. Exhausted, bro. All of a sudden, number 30, here comes Tank Abbott. So now, bro, I'm putting myself in the reality zone. Here's a guy that just wrestled for an hour. Here comes a UFC fighter as fresh as a daisy. So the idea was for freaking Tank Abbott to come in the ring and freaking knock out Sid cold. Okay? Now, which is very believable, would have happened if this shit were real, and all of a sudden you're going off this pay-per-view. Holy shit. Who would have thought that Tank Abbott would be the WCW champion? Now, bro, do we know where we're going from there? Of course we don't know, bro. We don't have time to talk about that. This is like a Friday night or a Thursday night. The pay-per-view is freaking Sunday. So we have to figure out what we're doing now with all these injuries. Once we figure that out, now we can sit down the next day and we can figure out, okay, where are we going with this now? So, Matt, my memory isn't 100%. I think this late night meeting took place on a Thursday night where we came up with this idea and we were going to reconvene on Friday. Okay, bro, where do we go with the TV now? Where do we go with this?
It's reported that it's reported that one of the final straws for Russo, and this is according to Wade Keller at the Torch, one of the final straws for Russo was you submitted a proposal on Friday afternoon for changes in the card due to Hart's concussion. You suggest that they hold a battle royal on the pay-per-view, which is what you just said, that Tank Abbott win the main event. And then Russo's opponents used that ammunition against you, saying that this was the final proof that your ideas were terrible. When did you start getting pushback? When did you start hearing? What was your next contact with WCW officials, Bush or whoever?
First of all, there was no proposal, bro. I didn't hand in a freaking proposal to anybody. I had a conversation with Bill Bush. It's so funny, bro, because Bill Bush, Vince, so, what are you going to do? And I said, okay, bro, we all met creatively last night. This is what we're going to do. Okay? Okay, fine, no problem. Okay? Bro, an hour passes. See, these are the missing parts nobody has. An hour passes. I get a call from Bill Bush. You ready? Vince, you can't put the title on Tank Abbott. Okay. So, bro, I know immediately. Like, Bill Bush don't know shit about wrestling. So I know immediately, bro, he bounced that off somebody, probably JJ, and it's like, and I remember saying to him, Bill, we can put the title on anybody, bro. We make this shit up. Like, so what do you mean I can't put the title on? What do you mean I can't put the title on Tank Abbott? We put the title on anybody. We make this shit up. So Matt, I remember at that time, I knew it. I'm like, okay, bro. He had no problem with it. But you know, he didn't have enough confidence in himself to make a decision. So now we had to go to JJ. Now we had to go to Kevin or whoever he went to. Right, Matt. This is my right hand to God. I hang up the phone with Bill Bush. I'm in the basement of my house. I remember where I was. I called my attorney. And I said, bro, you need to get me out of this contract. I said, I don't care what it takes. Enough. I can't work under these circumstances. I made a huge mistake. I don't give a shit about the money, bro. Whatever we have to do, you have to get me out of this contract. Swear to God, bro, that was my phone call with my attorney. Okay? Shortly following that phone call, Bill Bush calls me. Bro, this is just how weak they are. Okay? So he calls me and says, "Hey Vince, we got Hogan coming in and we got Flair coming in and we're going to go over creative." And I'm saying to myself, "Oh yeah, bro, you just picked up the phone and called Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and they're dropping everything to come in for a meeting. Like, give me a freaking break." I didn't say that to Bill Bush, but I knew it. Like, bro, stop it already. Okay. So I knew it was bullshit. But I'm like, okay, let me go into the office and let me see what Bill Bush has to say. Okay, so that's where we are at that point. You have any questions off of that?
No, not so far. Go ahead.
Okay, so Matt, I swear to you, I walk into Bill Bush's office. Matt, his face is as white as a ghost. I swear to God. And Matt, I know immediately Bill Bush doesn't want to do this. Like, this was the guy that was telling me 2 months ago what fun this was and what a great time we were having. I knew he didn't want to do this. So, of course, there's no Hogan and there's no Flair. So he sits down with me and he starts the conversation with, "Vince, we decided, we decided, first of all, who's the we? You're running the ship here. We decided we're going in another direction. You're no longer going to be head of creative. You're going to be part of a committee." Okay. Now, Matt, you got to understand, literally less than an hour ago, I'm on the phone with my attorney saying, "Bro, get me out of this. I don't get me. I don't give a shit about the money. Get me out of this." Matt, when Bush is saying this to me, like once he says that to me, at that point, like, I'm not even listening to him. What's going through my mind is, bro, you guys just breached my contract. So, like, now not only am I going to get out of this contract, you guys are going to have to pay me. So, like, that's what's going through I could give a shit. Like, bro, put Sullivan in charge, put JJ in charge. I want out of this. You're breaching my contract. So, bro, I sat there as calm as a cucumber, knowing I had him. And I said, "Bill, cool, no yelling, nothing, no mad." I said, "Well, Bill," I said, "unfortunately, that's not what my contract states." I said, "My contract states that I'm head of creative." I said, "I have no interest whatsoever in being part of any committee." I said, "So you need to call Brad Siegel. You guys need to figure out how you're going to pay me. And once you figure that out, give me a call at home and let me know." And I got up and I walked out of the office, and that was it.
So let's that was it. As far as, and we'll talk about the committee as well. Let's talk a little bit about the criticisms and maybe your response to them. It's been said that, you at the time, head of creative, kind of uncompromising. At the same time, there was a way of thinking among kind of the old guard, that you had devalued the titles so much. And I know you say they're made up, nobody actually wins the titles. But when you have this kind of school of thought where you have, the titles about to be given to Tank Abbott, the cruiserweight titles being contended between Oklahoma and Medusa, and the tag team titles are going back and forth between David Flair and Crowbar and Johnny the Bull and Big Vito, that maybe you didn't really understand what WCW was about. I know you don't feel that way, but looking back now, is it possible that maybe you could have been a little bit more understanding of that viewpoint?
Matt, you got to understand something. If the ratings are going south, I'm making a mistake, bro. And I know I'm making a mistake, and I know I need to do something to correct that. I know that, and I'm ready to take responsibility. And shit, Vince, you were wrong. Bro, when the ratings are going up slowly but surely, creeping up, going in the right direction over those first 3 months, in my mind and in my opinion, it's working. It's a positive. We're going in the right direction. So I'm not looking at increasing ratings as a negative, bro.
But if you were to take a bigger view of it and to say, okay, the 13 weeks that I did versus the 13 weeks before I came in, the ratings are exactly the same. You went up a little bit from the 4 weeks previous to you coming in, but it's not like it was going in a direction so definitively that you could
Matt, I said a year. So after 3 months, this is where we should be. Bro, Matt, you got to understand something. The first thing you got to do is stop the bleeding. That's the first thing you've got to do, bro. Stop the bleeding. Don't let these ratings go any lower. Stick your finger in the dike. So the first thing you've got to do is stop the freaking bleeding.
And that's fair because they had stopped going down. You had stopped.
Yes, that's number one. So stop the bleeding.
So that makes sense to me. So you felt that, dude, this thing was sinking. I've been here for 3 months. It's not sinking anymore. That's right. It's harder to, like the economy, it's harder to turn it around than to keep it going while it's going well, so if you can stop the economy from going down and turn it around just even a little bit, that's huge, right? That's
it. Stop the bleeding. Okay, that's the first thing. Stop the bleeding. Don't let the ratings keep going down. Stop the bleeding. Now, right after you stop the bleeding, now you got to start seeing small victories. Whether it's a 10th of a point, Matt, it doesn't matter as long as it's moving in the right direction. Because remember, bro, you're getting your building blocks in place. You're tearing down everything they were doing, and now it's your vision. And now you're putting the people in the spots that you want them to be, bro. So you're in you're stopping the bleeding. And you're in the rebuilding process. So after 3 months, bro, I'm exactly where I want to be. This is what we talked about in the meeting. This is what we discussed. I didn't lie to you guys. I didn't sell you guys a bill of goods. This is exactly what I laid out to you. So now if you want to go in another direction, that's fine, but I'm not going to be a part of that direction.
You're frustrated talking about this. You're a little heated talking about this in 2019. How pissed off and frustrated were you in 1999 or early 2000 when they're saying, Vince, you're part of a booking committee now. You're going to be sitting next to Bob Mould.
I'm just pissed off because, this is what we talked about, man. You had me there in Atlanta for 2 full days. I told you this, bro. I told you how long it took to turn the WWE around. I literally gave you a time frame, and I told you, bro, I laid it all out to you. If you had an issue with it then, you shouldn't have fired me. But realistically, guys, we need a year. We need a year to turn. Just like when I left Vince McMahon, I said, Vince, you got a year to ride this wave. Look what happened after that year. It was the same thing here, guys. You don't expect ratings overnight. It's not going to happen. I told them exactly what we were going to do. We were sticking to our plan, and that's the thing that pissed me off. If they would have said, Vince, we can't wait a year, I would have said, then don't hire me, because I can't get this done in less than a year.
The hierarchy of Turner, WCW, Bush was the guy you reported to. Bush reported to Brad Siegel. Is that right?
Yes.
So with Bush, by the way, Meltzer and Keller are much more in your corner in 2000 than they are in 2019. Keller says to judge you now, just before a lot of pieces were going to fall into place to make you look good, is unfair and bad business. Russo deserves his post back and an unobstructed chance to succeed. Does that surprise you that Wade Keller wrote that in early 2000?
Yeah. Yep. Because I'm sure the wrestling we were doing was not his cup of tea.
It's not. It's not any of the writer's cup of tea. But one of the things that Keller writes in this blistering indictment of Bill Bush, he writes an article about Bill Bush, and he says he never had a chance. He was played by J.J. Dillon, Gary Juster, Kevin Sullivan, Kevin Nash, and that he says the old guard feared that Russo would succeed. Russo managed to give them a lot of ammunition to discredit him to Bush. I can hear all the arguments by the Russo critics. They're good arguments. Russo's arrogant and not nearly as smart as he thinks he is. You can let that one go. But that said,
well, let's not let that go, because let's talk about the arrogant, bro. It's got nothing to do with arrogance. I know what worked in the WWE. We just came off of a huge success where the rating was 1.9, bro. When we left, it was 7.9. I know what we did. I lived through it. I know how we got the casual viewers and the masses. So it's not arrogance, bro. It's, guys, there's a blueprint. This worked. We can make this work over here.
I got to be honest, though, Vince. Like, even if you're right, okay, even if you're right, if you think you have the answers and everybody else doesn't have the answers, and you say, even if you're right, and you say it, it comes off as arrogant. As a member of the Arrogance Club of America, I've seen you at the meetings. You have a little bit of arrogance, because it is, I know what works, and I'm not afraid to tell you that. I don't know if there's a better word than arrogance, and I'm not sure it's a negative thing. Would you maybe agree with that a little bit?
Yeah. I'm confident. I'm confident that I know what I'm doing. That's not arrogance, bro. I'm confident for a reason. But I understand what you're saying, but it's not arrogance. It's experience, bro.
He goes on to say, Keller does in this article, this editorial on Bill Bush, that even though the criticism of you he feel might be accurate or might be something he agrees with, does the old guard, he asked, have the best interests of WCW in mind? No. Their professional lives are based around self-preservation. They are masters of it with decades of experience. They know how to play the game, and they played Bush like a fiddle.
Yeah, fast forward WWE circa 2019. Same exact. That's it. Nothing's changed, bro. That's the wrestling business. Nothing has changed.
I was about to say we went a full hour without you bringing up Becky Lynch, and I was going to ring a bell or something.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying, bro. Fast forward 20 years, nothing's changed.
Let's talk a little bit about that. they know how to play the game, and they played Bush like a fiddle.
Yeah.
Do you believe? Do you believe they did? And how we talked about Kevin Sullivan. How big a role did Gary Juster have? Kevin Nash have in these kind of things?
Gary Juster played a huge role. Bro, I want to believe Kevin Nash didn't play a role because I considered Kevin Nash and me friends. You know, I mean, we did work together at the WWE. I know Kevin was more hip and more open to new school and less traditional. I don't think Kevin played a hand, but I don't know. Without a shadow of the doubt, Jester, JJ, Sullivan, Hogan, Flair, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt.
Once they took you out of power, they were kind of scrambling a little bit. They considered Nash, and they wanted to give Nash some power and also give him the title. He turned it down. It ended up going to Sullivan. So let's talk a little bit about that. The fallout for the Sullivan thing is well documented. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But what does it say about Bill Bush and about Kevin Sullivan, about J.J. Dillon, that the person chosen was someone who would result in so many wrestlers being unhappy? How out of touch was he? How bad was he played?
I got to tell you, I get off on this. I get off on because, bro, let me go down the line with you. This happened to me with Kevin Sullivan. Bruce Pritchard attempted it, but Vince McMahon was smart enough. And it was the same scenario with Eric Bischoff at TNA. And what he did to me, the things he said about me to Dixie, the things he said about me to Spike executives, because he wanted all the power. Can I tell you, this is what I get off on, Matt, and I'll explain it to you. When I work with guys like Kevin Sullivan, when I work with guys like Bruce, when I work with guys like Eric, after working with them for a while, I know what they're capable of. I know what they're good at, and I know what they can't do. Okay, bro? From a writing perspective, writing a show, formatting a show, getting everybody involved, storylines, characters, stuff making sense, compelling. Those guys can't touch me. Okay, bro? Now, on the other side of the coin, there are a hell of a lot of things they do better than me. A hell of a lot of things, but that's not one of them. So now, Matt, here's the thing. This is why I get off on this. When you politic, okay, bro, when I'm talking politicking, I'm talking when you stab people in the back, when you lie, when you cheat, when you steal, when you do whatever you have to do to gain the power, okay? Bro, once you gain that power, you've got to deliver. And bro, when you're incapable of delivering, you're going to fall flat on your face. So when I got called and all of a sudden I'm not part of a committee and Sullivan, because of his politicking, is in charge, I know he's falling flat on his face because I know he can't do it. And I'm enjoying that. Eric Bischoff achieved big time. Congratulations to Eric of running me out of TNA. He did exactly what he wanted to do. Go ahead, Eric. Go write the TV. Go write your aces and eights. You took 2 million people, bro, and you whittled it down to nothing because you politicked for the power, you politicked to get rid of Vince Russo. Now it's time to put up or shut up, bro. And because you can't write a television show, you failed miserably. So, bro, I'm not going to lie to you. I get off on the politicians because when it comes to the time of having to deliver, you're gonna shit the bed, bro.
And that kind of mentality you have now, you know, the perception of you now, ranting and being upset and you know, making your point. You know, it all started with this. This is where it all started. Like, you had success in the WWE. You were given a good contract for WCW. This is where the Vince Russo we know now, the one that is unhappy with wrestling.
Let's be honest. There was an attempt at WWE. Bruce Pritchard made his attempt, bro. Listen.
But you shook it off and became more powerful than ever, though. And
I like Bruce. Let's be honest, but let's call a spade here. Bruce wanted the talent relations position, so he relinquished creative. Vince put him in that talent relations position that maybe Bruce wasn't suitable for. I don't know what happened, bro, but Vince took him out of that spot quickly.
I think he has said he wasn't a good fit for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Vince quickly took. So now what did Bruce want? Bruce wanted his spot on creative back. So now Bruce Pritchard goes to work. I told you about the creative services. Vince, people can't work with you. They can't get along with you. And I'm like, I'm going to drop it. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? I've worked with Debbie Bonanzio for years and years and years. All of a sudden, I'm writing now and she can't work. I knew he was full of shit. So I went to Vince. And I'm like, Vince, I don't play these games. The guy's bullshitting. Okay. I've never had a problem with this woman. Vince, if you want to put Bruce back in charge of creative, put him back in charge of creative. All right. I'm not good at this, bro. I just want to do my job. That when I told Vince that, deadpan, I'll take care of it. That was the end of that. Okay, bro? There was nobody to take care of it at WCW, and there was nobody to take care of it at TNA.
I guess what I want to get at, and I'm going to get to it because I'm freaking determined to, is what happened to you, Vince Russo, the person, your relationship with the wrestling industry on that day. With the WWE thing, you came out looking like a rose, so much so that WCW gave you the good contract. When you were, you get called to this meeting, you get these phone calls, you talk to your lawyer, you call back. There's a group of people that are willing to be on a committee with you. There's already people in a circle talking about you. At this point in time, your day-to-day life, your day-to-day job, the thing that you're, as you said, you were obsessive about wrestling at that point. Who did Vince Russo have? Were you just by yourself?
I was by myself.
Completely.
100%.
And I know you enough now that when something goes down, you got to talk to somebody. You got to call somebody. You text somebody. You vent out, and it's a healthy thing. At that point in time, was there anybody in the business that you could call?
Matt, I fell into the deepest, darkest depression I ever experienced in my life. Because you got to understand something, bro. I was an East Coast guy. Okay, bro. I moved from Long Island to Connecticut. Connecticut and Long Island are one and the same. Okay, bro. I moved to Atlanta for this job. So now, bro, my family's in Atlanta. My kids just started school. I don't want to move them again because it's not good for my kids. So now, not only do I want to have nothing to do with WCW, not only do I want to have nothing to do with wrestling, I'm living in a place that I can't stand. But for the good of my family, I've got to stay there and suck it up. I was in the deepest, darkest depression I ever suffered in my life.
What does that look like when you?
I totally isolate myself. Like I'm living in my basement. There's no communication with my wife. There's no communication with my kids. One day's turning into the next day, turning into the next day. I swear to God, Matt, all I cared about was every 2 weeks, I went to that mailbox and waited for my check to come. And that's it. That is it, bro.
It sounds miserable, dude.
Miserable. Matt, at that point in time, I'm being honest with you, bro. I was not suicidal, but I understood why people committed suicide. I understood it. I got it. I know why people pull the trigger. That's where I was.
So that kind of depression, those kind of thoughts, aren't just triggered by a job thing. It's something you've struggled with since. You've told me, and you've told everybody, that depression is a thing. When you're alone with your thoughts for those weeks, where you're getting those paychecks, what consumed you? Because when you're depressed, you get consumed with things. Was it consumed with more of those motherfuckers, they fucking did me, I didn't get a chance? Or was there a part of you, which it sounds like it would have to be, that says, I'm no good, I messed up, I failed?
No, not at all, bro. Come on. Can I tell you what I'm consuming, bro? Can I tell you what may have saved my life?
Did you hear how serious I got?
You may laugh at this.
Did you hear how serious I got?
Yeah, no, Matt, come on, stop. Matt, you want to know what? I'm not bullshitting you. Do you know what may have saved my life and what I consume myself with? First of all, Matt, I wasn't, you got to understand something. I wasn't those son of a bitches. They only gave me 3 months. F them. Matt, I was glad to be out. I was glad to be out. I didn't want the call back. I didn't want them to call me back. Bro, if my check's in the mailbox every 2 weeks, I'm fine for the next 18 months, whatever it is. I did not want them to call me back. I did not want the job. Just pay me my money and let me live in Atlanta for a couple of years, and then I'll move again. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the game plan. Matt, I swear to God, what saved me at this point, somebody turned me on to fantasy baseball. And I started playing fantasy baseball when nobody could F with me. Nobody's going to mess with my Vince. Why are you trading this guy? Why are you? No, bro, I can run my own team. And maybe that was the correlation. I became obsessed with fantasy baseball, and that's all I did was play fantasy baseball. I was not saying those. I did not want to go back.
Yeah, no one's going to go, hey, Vince, Kevin Sullivan's now the manager of your baseball team.
Right, exactly. And, bro, I'm telling you, that had something to do with it. I'm managing my own fantasy baseball team. Nobody could tell me what to do.
But previous to that, when you're in your down point from this, what is it that consumed your thoughts? What was it that caused that depression? The fact I'm stuck in this town, I'm not working or whatever it is. There must have been something deeper in you that kind of triggered that depression just from losing this WCW job.
Matt, I don't think it was that. Can I tell you what it was? And I hate to say this because I'm going to get all kinds of heat, Matt.
Oh yeah, because you hate heat so much.
I hated Atlanta, man. It was so not me. So now the only reason I moved here was because of this job. Now I'm stuck here, bro, because I'm not going to do that to my kids. I can't move them all over again. And that was it, bro. Now I'm living in a place I hate. I mean, that was the tough, bro, seriously, if I had moved to Colorado, I think I might have been okay. Because I love Colorado. I go out places, I do things. I despised Atlanta, bro.
Previous to you going out, there was a talk that you had a meeting January 3rd, told people that if anybody had a problem, with anything going on to come to them, come to you and talk about it. So you were kind of in the loop that maybe that there was a lot of talk going on, and you just wanted people to come and say it to your face. Is that it?
Yeah, I don't remember that at all, Matt. I mean, I mean, if somebody's saying that, did it take place? Probably, but I can't remember that at all.
So you were asked to be part of the committee. You decided that's not the job. You're not getting out of the contract, so you're just getting a paycheck. But you're still kind of meeting with, WCW, trying to figure out what to do. January 29th, 2000, Meltzer reports that last Thursday, Vince Russo met with Brad Siegel, the head of Turner Entertainment Division that oversees WCW. The 2-hour meeting went well, but ended without a resolution regarding Russo's role at the company. It says that Russo gave Siegel 3 options that would work for him. 1, buy out his contract and let him find a job elsewhere. 2, give him an assignment that within WCW that didn't involve him ever having to interact with J.J. Dillon, Kevin Sullivan, and Gary Juster. Or 3, give him his job back as it was structured a year ago. He was willing to knock the second year off his contract if they gave him his creative director position back. He wanted 9 months of control of WCW to prove he could make things work. Does that sound accurate to you?
I don't remember that at all, Matt.
So
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I don't remember that at all. I do remember, like, I knew I was in the driver's seat. I had a freaking contract. And it wasn't so much the contract. It's what I told you guys, bro. I was honest with you guys from day freaking one. You didn't live up to our end of the agreement. So this is nothing I did, bro. I told you guys straight up, we have an agreement in paper. You guys didn't live up to the agreement, not me. So, like, I knew I was in the driver's seat. I was not giving anything.
Do you remember any conversations or meetings at all with WCW in the following days after you leaving?
Bro, I really don't. I mean, I'm sure there were conversations with Brad Siegel. Like, I'm sure there were. I don't remember meeting with him, bro, personally. I know there were phone conversations. I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen, bro. I'm saying I don't remember.
It goes on to say in the meeting that you don't remember, but you're not disputing because it sounds, realistic. It says when Siegel confronted Russo about dipping ratings and buy rate numbers, Russo pulled out a daily log of instances where he felt his hands were tied by Bush and Dillon when it came to ideas he wanted to execute. Did you keep
that never happened, bro? I could tell you this: Brad Siegel never came at me from a negative way. Never, bro. It was almost like, bro, remember I told you Bill Bush was as white as a ghost?
Right.
I kind of felt like, bro, Brad Siegel was a New York guy. Bro, I kind of felt like Brad Siegel did not agree with the decision. Brad Siegel never hit me with any negative numbers where I had to defend myself. Like, I could tell you, like, he never tried to justify, well, this is why we went to a committee. I mean, that I could tell you without a doubt.
And to that end, Siegel put Bush fully in charge, according to Meltzer, of deciding what's going to happen with you. You don't remember meeting with Bush or meeting with Siegel at all, right?
I don't remember face-to-face meetings, no.
So with Siegel, Brad Siegel, more of a Turner guy who's not involved in the day-to-day operations of the company. Bush is the guy who's kind of overseeing it, who is getting played by all these workers. Is that kind of the story of why it's important to have wrestling people involved in these positions?
Matt, wrestling people you can trust are few and far between, bro. I mean, they're really few and far between. That's why I feel very passionate with the Tony Khan gimmick, because, bro, I've lived through it twice. I've lived through it with freaking Bill Bush. I lived through it again with Dixie Carter. This just reeks of the same scenario with me. It's very, 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 very hard, bro, to have people from the wrestling business with good intentions. Here's a personal case in point, bro. Like, Terry Taylor was part of the committee. I don't doubt for a second that he was working the other side for power, bro. I would tell Terry that to his face today. So, bro, I don't know how many people in the wrestling business you can honestly trust.
The one person in this committee that we haven't talked about much is Bob Mould. Bob Mould was a musician. He was in. We'll get to it. You get your say. He was in Husker Du, and then he was brought on as kind of a creative guy before you got on. It said that he had left because he was frustrated with his role with you, and after you left, he was part of the committee. Talk a little bit about Bob Mould.
Oh my God, bro. Bro, that's like Bob Mould bringing me into Husker Du. All right, bro, it's the same freaking thing. We're gonna bring Vince Russo into Husker Du because Vince Russo likes music. It's the same. What a freaking slap in my face. But freaking Bill Bush is somehow, some way friends with Bob Mould from Husker Du. He's a mark for Bob Mould. Bob Mould is a wrestling fan, so somehow or another winds up as part of the committee. I mean, come on, bro. Like that was such a sign of no credentials, nothing, bro. Because Bill Bush is a mark for Bob Mould and Husker Du. Bob Mould is now sitting in on WCW Creative. Come on, bro. Like, seriously.
But, you're not that close-minded that when you meet somebody, you just assume because he's a musician, he has nothing
There's
to offer
a right
creatively.
way to do it. Don't do it that way. You just don't throw somebody in there. Introduce them to Vince. Let Vince have a conversation with him. Let Vince pick his brain. In other words, I'm friends with Billy Corgan. Okay, if you put Billy Corgan in that spot and I got to talk to Billy and I got to hear Billy's thoughts on wrestling and know Billy's history, fine, I've got no problem. But when you're just putting the guy in there with no explanation, no formal introduction, bro, I never had a one-on-one conversation with the guy, ever.
What, was he brought in after you were hired?
No, I think he might have been there when I started.
I think so.
He was like just there, and I'm like, there was no introduction. There was no one-on-one conversation. There was no Bob Mould coming up to me saying, "Hey, Vince, you want to grab lunch?"
But what was his role when you got there? Like, would he throw out ideas, or would he, be part of a meeting or a production meeting?
I think he was just sitting in on like creative meetings, I think.
And so he was brought back as part of this committee as well. But he wasn't someone that you kind of respected or thought contributed a lot to WCW.
No, and that had a lot to do with the way they freaking handled it. They handled it the wrong way. Like I said, change the scenario. Dixie Carter wants me to work with Billy Corgan. Okay. I have a conversation with Billy Corgan. I hear what he knows about wrestling and how deep he goes into it. Fine. No problem. I got no problem with Billy Corgan being on it. But when none of that takes place, I'm looking at this guy saying, like, this guy is here because you're a mark for him?
The one thing and the one mistake, and I guess we'll transition just a little bit, and Meltzer and Keller and the book, the Nitro book, all relay this fact, is that one thing that Bill Bush really messed up on was that he underestimated how much more popular you were than Kevin Sullivan. That bringing Kevin Sullivan, that was a mistake because of how much bad feelings existed between the wrestlers and Kevin Sullivan. How in tune were you to the fact that the wrestlers were more happy that you were there than if Kevin Sullivan would be put in charge?
Well, because I knew they never got their opportunity before in their minds, and they weren't going to get it now again. I mean, that's exact. They knew they were going to get an opportunity with me. They knew they were starting to get opportunities with me.
In particular, with Billy Kidman, Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, Guerrero, Conan, Shane Douglas. Did you have any kind of connections with them, or interactions with them that let you know that they were happy with what was going on?
Bro, when I went home, I didn't talk to anybody.
How about previous to that? Previous to that, did you get the indications from that kind of talent, the mid-card young talent that was up and coming, that they were happy with the way things were going?
Bro, watch the show. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is watch Billy Kidman. Go watch Shane Douglas. Watch the show. These guys have a whole new, different attitude.
What were there any other options presented to you, or any other options that you came up with in the wake of all the injuries? Because the Tank Abbott thing was used, as kind of
right.
What if there was other ideas? That one idea that you had that you got attached to.
Well, man, it's what it is in wrestling all the time, bro. It's always this in wrestling, bro. We got together as a committee. And all of a sudden that turns into Vince's idea, just like David Arquette, when Tony Schiavone, pitched that, I called everybody back in the room together. I didn't make that decision on my own. I called everybody and I said, guys, Tony just mentioned this to me. What do you think? Every single person was on board. Then all of a sudden, when somebody shits on it, oh, that's Vince's idea. Bro, several people agreed to this. This was not Vince making a decision without getting together with the committee. We got together and discussed this.
We talked about this on the Patreon version. We had a show completely dedicated to the subject of Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo. Of course, if anybody was to be in your corner, it was Ed Ferrara. And you said on that Patreon show that you, for a while, had bad feelings about Ed Ferrara, about the way he handled it, about the lack of loyalty. Can you talk a little bit about your interactions with him in the wake of this decision by WCW?
Yeah, he wasn't in my corner, bro. But he wasn't in my corner because he had to worry. Ed had to worry about Ed and his wife. And Ed and his wife moved to Atlanta just like I did. And all of a sudden, if the job isn't there for Ed Ferrara, then what? What does he do next? So, I understand that, but he was not in my corner fighting for me.
What did early 2000 Vince Russo think of Ed Ferrara? What was what were you thinking then, as far as the loyalty, and maybe he could have done something, maybe if he stuck with you? Looking back now, you're magnanimous and thinking, his family and all that. But I think
I just know, and I could tell you to this day, I know Vince Russo would have handled it totally differently.
Roles reversed, what would Vince Russo have done?
I would have walked with him.
And did you feel that Ed Ferrara owed you that because you brought him there?
I don't feel he owed me anything, but I felt that would have been the right thing to do. And
was that another part of kind of the depression and the anger? Was that the one guy, the relationships you made maybe didn't mean anything because nobody was in your corner, but the one guy you brought with you wasn't in your corner.
the depression and the anger was the wrestling business. It all falls under the wrestling business. So that was just part of it, bro. At that point, I would have preferred to be on the back of a garbage truck than to be working in wrestling.
As someone who hustled your way in owning a video store to writing for the WWE magazine, and hustled your way up from WWE magazine to being the head of creative, to hustling your way to being the head of creative of the entire company of WCW, was there a part of you that has said, what have I done? Have I wasted these years of my life in this terrible industry?
Not at all, bro, because when things went crashing down at WCW, I opened up my own business in Atlanta, and I 1,000,000,000% enjoyed doing that much more than I did working in the wrestling business.
Transitioning a little bit to the 4 guys who ended up leaving. It ended up being where there was a meeting. They said anybody wants to leave can leave, but they made a couple people happy. A couple people weren't welcome at WWE. And so it ended up being those 4 leaving: Saturn, Malenko, Guerrero, Benoit. When did you first hear that those 4 guys
Well, bro, I'll tell you what happened. And this story's never been told before either, I don't think, bro. I think this is a Mac Coon TWC exclusive.
Excellent.
I read it online, and I'll be honest with you, I was getting great joy out of the chaos. Great joy reading about it online. But then the person who did call me was Shane Douglas, because those 4 guys completely screwed him, man. And, bro, I got to tell you something about Shane Douglas. Bro, you know how I tell you you can't trust any wrestler? They're all full of shit. Bro, there is something about Shane Douglas, like, where I just kind of believe every word he says. Like, I watch shoot interviews with Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas can say anything, and I kind of believe Shane Douglas. My experience with Shane Douglas is he was always a stand-up guy. And, bro, maybe he's been working me for 20 years. But I always found Shane to be a stand-up guy. And Shane called me because those guys went to the WWE behind his back. WWE didn't want him. They didn't call him. They wouldn't return his phone calls. And freaking Shane was devastated at the time. And I remember him calling me, asking me what to do.
And did you say, why are you calling me? Or did you say, here's what you should do? What was the advice you gave him?
No, I just said, Shane, you've been there once. Like, I was there with you. Like, you were miserable there, bro. Like, why would you even want to go? I understand, bro. You're hurt by your friends. The fact that they're not calling you when they did this behind your back, I get that. But, I mean, my God, bro, like, that's probably the last place you want to be.
And, you know, Shane, I guess, wasn't welcome back, and the 4 kind of went without him. When you're watching this, taking great glee in this, are you thinking, well, they're screwed now. They lost the workhorses. Like, your entire, 1-year plan, it featured those 4 pretty prominently, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where did you see Benoit going in WCW under the Vince Russo regime?
Bro, again, Matt, I wanted to let it happen organically. Some guys were going to step up and thrive. Bro, other guys were probably going to drop the ball. And so I did not have anything predetermined for anybody. I knew I'm going to put them all out there, and then it's going to be up to them, man.
With that taking place, and Guerrero, you've talked about how he called you once, and you said that, he called you that he's going into rehab, and so you had a relationship with him. What was it about you that made Shane Douglas comfortable with calling you as opposed to
bro, because we worked with each other when he was Dean Douglas, and like the Click and those guys made his life miserable. And like, I was his friend back then, and I was in his corner back then. So we already had an established relationship.
It was unheard of at the time to have 4 people jump from WCW. All the unhappiness that took place. Was that something that you maybe saw coming a little bit when you heard Sullivan was going to take over?
Bro, I never really heard Sullivan was gonna take over. I just assumed it. But like I said, no, bro, like not really. I just knew he wasn't gonna be able to deliver. They weren't delivering before I got there. What made them seem they were gonna deliver after I left? They had an opportunity, bro. There was time between Bischoff leaving when those guys were running the ship. And they weren't getting the job done. It wasn't going to be any different after I left.
It said that maybe, you were kept under contract, you were put on the sidelines, your contract would not be bought out. And maybe the purpose of that was in case this shit went belly up, which it did, they could call Vince Russo again. Was there a part of you that thought, wow, they could call me back into work again if they put me in charge of creative again? I don't want to do it, or I want a second chance, or
no, I didn't even want to think about that, Matt. I did not want a second chance. I did not want to go back. I just wanted to make sure they paid me for the duration of 2 years. That's all I cared about.
When you said what you're depressed about and what you really had a lot of animus in your heart about was, quote unquote, the wrestling industry. You didn't feel that way prior to this moment, I don't think so. This was a very definitive, pivotal moment in your life, was it not?
Well, man, you got to back up a little bit, bro, because I've said this before. Bro, when I went to WCW, bro, at that point, I was emotionally, mentally, physically done. I gave so much to Vince and so much during my time at the WWE. I was done. So in my mind, I was like, bro, suck it up for 2 more years. Get as much money as you can. Suck it up for 2 years. Bankroll as much as you can, and then go into business for yourself. So like I was done before day one, bro.
Did you think it was not even a possibility they would call you back?
No, I knew it was, because I knew those guys were going to fail miserably.
Why did you think that?
Because they politicked their way there, and now they had to deliver, and they didn't know how to deliver.
For the same reason that Keller said earlier.
Yes.
So we put this question out to Twitter about your exit. Just a couple of questions from Twitter. Of course, follow us at Russo Coon TWC. Of course, you can follow Vince Russo at the Vince Russo. You can follow me at Matt Coon Music. Of those who jumped, as I said earlier, there were some on the periphery who were very much in the mix who did not jump. Kidman, Shane Douglas, Conan. Who do you think could have made the biggest impact on the WWE if they had left too?
God, bro, I would have always loved to see Conan at WWE.
Absolutely.
But there was always, from day one, I don't know if it was him and Pritchard. I mean, there was something happened, bro, where there was Conan from day one, and he was never going to go there.
The story from Bruce Pritchard is peculiar in that he says that Conan called him and he said, "Hey man, it's me, K-Dog. It's K-Dog, man. You got anything for me?" And Bruce Pritchard's like, I don't know who K-Dog is. Like, he didn't know who Conan was, or he didn't know that K-Dog was Conan. And he's like, all right, well, and he talked to him on the phone. It's me, K-Dog. He didn't know who it was, but Conan disputes that. You feel that WWE would never have given Conan a chance, so it was a wasted phone call.
And bro, Bruce did that. Bruce did that with Disco Inferno of all people. Bro, when Bruce was in that spot, like, let's be honest, Bruce got off on the power and people kissing his ass. That wasn't me, bro. I don't want people to freaking kiss my ass. I don't want people to cater to me. I don't want people to be afraid of me. I wanted to bring disco into the WWE. So Bruce was talent relations. Bruce had one conversation with the Disco Inferno, didn't like the way Disco answered his questions, so Disco never worked for the WWE. So what you're telling me about Conan sounds like a very, very similar conversation.
Conan would have done great in the WWE.
Yep.
Because you have a very emboldened, enlightened, Hispanic character who would really appeal to that that strong WWE demographic. It could have been huge. I think he would have been a good fit. But you never know. Like WWE, I remember telling Matthew that the Mexi Cools rode in on lawnmowers and stuff. I don't think Conan would have gone with that shit, right?
No.
Another question from Twitter. This is from Anthony P. I'm checking my volume here. Hold on one second. There we go. Whoops. Why was Vince so high on Benoit? Was it because he was just a good wrestler? Because it doesn't seem like Benoit would be your cup of tea.
I wasn't high on Benoit. I mean, I wasn't. Like, I didn't know. Like, literally, bro, this was going to be, I'm going to give you guys the ammunition. You're going to go out there. You're going to get the television time. And, this really was grabbing the brass ring. Like, some of you guys are going to shine. Some of you guys are going to fall short. You're all going to have the same opportunity. I can tell you this, bro. I'll never forget this, though. I remember going years back, bro, when I was a magazine writer. They brought in Benoit to have a dark match with Owen Hart. And I watched that match, and I was like, holy shit. And, of course, Benoit and Owen knew each other, and they were very familiar with each other. I went to Pat Patterson, and I'm like, bro, like, are you going to hire this guy? And Pat turned around to me. He goes, hire him? He goes, what are we going to do with him? The guy can't talk. And, like, but I remember seeing that performance, and that match blew me away.
There's something about Benoit that kind of jumped off the screen, right?
Yeah, it was unique.
What was your reaction to what he did and how he died?
I don't know. I mean, bro, how do you react to that, man? I mean, just total shock, man. Total shock.
And to this day, it still feels a little uncomfortable to talk about him, right?
No, it absolutely does, bro. But I always think about, how much play did steroids have to do with that, bro?
Yeah, and of course concussions,
Right.
And with those four, that left, you had been there 3 months, so you probably had some idea. Those four, could you rank them in order as far who do you think would have the biggest impact, or who do you think, from 1 to 4, like is Guerrero first, or how would you rank them?
Bro, at that time, I don't think I had seen them enough. I mean, I really don't at that time. I don't think I'd seen them enough. Bro, if it were me, if we're going on looks alone, bro, I probably would have had Saturn first. Just because Perry was so freaking unique and nobody looked like him. Nobody had his personality, bro. He really had like a quirky personality. To me, character-wise, he jumped off the page.
Another question from Twitter, and I think you've answered it. You didn't really have any long-range plans involving any of these four, right? You didn't really have any idea what you would do with them at this point.
No.
When it came to when we're left now with you leaving WCW, with you maybe being depressed and you getting your check every 2 weeks. The Radicals have now gone. You've decided to completely leave the wrestling industry to start your own business at this point, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And decided to leave it all behind. What you're brought in a few months later. We're going to talk about that at length soon, probably. But what convinced you to come back?
I had to fulfill my contract.
So what was the phone call that you got? What was the contact you got? What was your reaction?
Brad Siegel called me. I want you to meet so-and-so at a restaurant. And I'm like, oh, God, no. Because I knew it meant two things.
Eric Bischoff?
I knew it meant I was going back to work, and I knew it meant he wanted me to work with Eric Bischoff.
And I think we're going to leave it as a cliffhanger right there. So that is the story of Vince Russo leaving WCW and the fallout that happened with the Radicals leaving WCW. And, maybe we'll take some questions on this on Twitter. We'll put something out there and maybe follow up next week with a little bit more. But for now, Vince, it is time for Are You Kidding Me, Bro? With Vince Russo. What is going on in the mind, in the outrage of Vince Russo in February of 2019?
You really want to know?
I do, and I think the listeners do as well.
You always get me in trouble.
B.
What idiots, what mindless, clueless imbeciles do the WWE think they're getting over on by putting China in the WWE as a member of DX? Bro, this is so typical WWE bullshit. You guys should be embarrassed. You should be ashamed. It's laughable. If you don't think anybody with a brain doesn't see right through you, especially you, Hunter, you guys are freaking ignorant. First of all, let me make something perfectly clear. I don't want to shit on it too badly, and I'll tell you why. Because Joni's mother is very excited. And bro, let me specify this. Joni Lauer and her mother did not have the greatest relationship when Joni was alive. There was not a mother-daughter relationship. Okay, it was far from it. But the fact that her mother is now taking great joy of Joni going, I don't want to shit all over it. But first of all, and I just spoke to Medusa this past week, and I've said this to Medusa before, and I think she gets pissed off at me saying this because she's at the Hall of Fame. Bro, let me tell you something. If there is anybody out there that needs the vindication of Vince McMahon to think you're worthy, you're out of your effing minds. Okay, bro? That's why it will never happen. I would probably be the first guy to say thanks, but no thanks. I don't need Vince McMahon vindicating me. Okay, bro? And no wrestler should be so excited because they're getting the vindication of one man. And until you get that vindication, you're worthless. Bro, if you put your years in the WWE, okay, the fans vindicated you. The people in the locker room, the people you worked with vindicated you.
I don't mean to interrupt, but it's validated.
Validated. That's what I said, Matt. Validated you. Okay, bro, you've been validated. Joni Lauer was validated decades ago when she was on TV, and the fan response, and more importantly, the locker room and the people that worked with her loved her and adored her. She was valid. We don't need the validation of freaking Vince McMahon. But bro, to appease people that have been hounding you. When's China going in the Hall of Fame? When China's going in the Hall of Fame? When China? Now you're going to put her in the Hall of Fame as one of 5 or 6 people. Guys, are you that petty? Like, I swear to God, bro, I'm the father of 3 kids. Bro, if I had a wife and a kid and kids, how could I be that petty? Like, bro, it is so petty. It is so transparent to anybody that knows you and know how you run that company. And bro, it's like, it's not even sickening. It's embarrassing. Like, you guys should be freaking embarrassed. If you think people with a brain don't see what you're doing, it's freaking embarrassing, bro. And you know what, bro? Vince, as far as I'm concerned, Vince McMahon can keep his validation. I don't need Vince McMahon knighting me or Vince McMahon giving me his seal of approval. That means nothing to me, bro. Okay, bro? People talking about the Attitude Era 20 years later, that means something to me. People remembering that, having memories, thanking me for their childhood. That means something to me. Same with China. Bro, there were millions and millions of young girls, teenage girls, idolizing China, wanting to be like China, the power that she exuded. That's her validation, bro. Not sneaking her in the Hall of Fame as one of 6 people. Give me what, bro. One of these days they're gonna grow up at the WWE, and bro, I'm telling you, slowly but surely, all this stuff, guys, is gonna come back to bite you in the ass, bro. It's called karma. There is such a thing of karma. You get out what you get back what you put out there, bro. That's what you get back. And slowly but surely, bro, as your numbers dwindle, bro, let's face it, bro. You made your money last year off of the Fox deal because you worked Fox. Wait till Fox sees the ratings. Wait till Fox see what they bought, and your Saudi Arabia deal, because the Saudis thought that the Ultimate Warrior and Andre the Giant were going to headline the card. Okay, bro? Take those 2 deals away. Let's look at your numbers. Let's really look at your numbers minus those deals. Bro, it's karma. You keep putting shit out there, you're going to keep getting shit back, bro.
I'm a little confused because on the one hand, you're saying that China doesn't need the validation, and at the other side, you're upset that she's not getting the full measure of validation, that she's going with the group. I'm of the opinion that this is a great way to get her in right now, and that it seems very natural. DX, you couldn't exclude her from DX, and she's included because of DX. She is in the Hall of Fame. What is the objection? I'm not sure I understand what the objection is. You feel that she should have gone in by herself instead of with DX? Is that should happen first?
Bro, if you're first of all, like I said, bro, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I don't think China needs the validation of Vince McMahon. It's ridiculous, bro. But here's where I'm like, but okay. A, her mother's happy. B, I think China really wanted to go in. And C, I know there's a large amount of the fan base that wanted her to go in. So like with those 3 things, like I'm not going to shit on that. And like I said, bro, I really believe her herself. I believe the validation was important to her. After everything that happened to her at the WWE, I think that validation was important to her. Bro, the things I'm telling you, I told her. I said these things to her before she passed away. You've proven yourself. You validated yourself. So because there is a large base of people that want her in, I'm not going to shit on it. But what I'm saying is, bro, if you're going to do it the right way. Like, do it the right freaking way. Bro, you mean to tell me that Sunny is more Hall of Fame worthy than China? Like you can actually sit there and tell me that Sonny brought more to the table to that company than China. I mean, come on, bro. If you're gonna do it, do it. Don't do it where, okay, bro, we're gonna bring her in under the guise of 5 or 6 people because we're not gonna give her the spotlight. I mean, come on, man.
So instead of seeing it as a great way to get her in, you think it's a way of sneaking her in.
Exactly. Yeah. To pacify all those people, bro. They're getting emails every day. They're getting tweets. They're getting buzzed every day. Every time this year comes around, put China in the Hall of Fame. Put China in the Hall of Fame. Put China. Okay, we're putting her in the Hall of Fame now. Are you happy? Come on.
Well, I'm happy because I think this was an awesome show of truth with consequences. Of course, make sure to follow us on Twitter. And if you're listening, tell your friends about us. Give us a 5-star review on
Can
iTunes.
Can I do a double gimmick this week?
Oh, absolutely.
What was this called again?
This particular episode?
No, the when I rant on something.
Oh, you want another one? Are you kidding me, bro?
I want another one, bro.
Okay, here we go. Go ahead.
I want another one because I'll forget it by next week because I'm old.
Yeah, God forbid. Let's.
Bro, I swear to God. Talk about embarrassing. Whoever produced, wrote, or was involved in that that Bailey, Boss, Tamina, Nia Jax segment on Raw, bro, literally, not only should you guys all be fired from the company, you should never be allowed to ever produce anything again outside of the grade school level. You should never, ever be able to write anything again other than for a mime. Guys, that is embarrassing. I have seen indie shows where I have seen performances and I have seen dialogue and I have seen the written word performed a million times. I mean, that was worse than anything I ever saw on any indie show. And I mean, for you to put your performance out there, here was the promo, bro. You go, now I go. You go, now I go. It's your turn. I go, now you go. Bro, I would never in my wildest dreams embarrass a performer that I was working for the way they embarrassed everyone in that segment. Bro, for you to actually write down dialogue of a wrestler saying we're changing the world. If I hear one more wrestler, bro, say how they're changing the world, I literally just think I'm going to freaking vomit. But anybody involved or that had any take in that, I don't care who you are. I'll tell you right to your face, you have no business doing what you're doing. That was embarrassing, bro.
And in a word, how could it have been better? What could you have done? What would Vince Russo have done differently?
Let the freaking girls react. Let it be real. Stop with the shit. I didn't do this. We did it. Bro, every freaking person goes out there and pandas to the crowd. And first of all, she's the boss. The fact that you're the boss, and I'm not talking to Sasha. I am a fan of Sasha. I'm talking of those writing to Sasha. If Sasha is the boss, these people can't be her equals. Do you not understand that? If Sasha is the boss, she cannot be saying, we did this together. That's not what bosses do. Bosses are in charge and people are underneath them. So if you want her to pander to the crowd and you want her to be the baby face and we all did this together, this is our title, please stop calling her the boss, because that's the boss has a negative connotation. So honestly, do I need to explain this to you guys? Seriously? When you hear boss, what do you think of when I hear boss? I hate my effing boss. I hate the word boss. Power, somebody in charge. That's not you working together with somebody. So seriously, do you guys not have these conversations?
I think it's fair to assume they don't. I think it's fair to assume that, that you put the guys out there, the ladies out there, and they talk, and people are supposed to like it. But for your viewpoint, it was one of the worst segments you've ever seen.
Oh, my, bro, it was literally okay, here are my lines. Now it's your turn. All right, I just gave my lines. Now it's your turn. It was, oh, please, man, you're killing these girls.
Well, I'll tell you what's not killing us is the great downloads we've been getting, and we want to thank everybody. And also, I have this new show, Total Engagement, with Matt Kuhn. You can find all your podcast platforms. Had a great interview with Lex Luger this past week.
Oh, is that the one you were working on?
Yeah, man. Lex is great, man.
Oh, awesome. No, Lex is great, bro. That's awesome.
He's like the nicest person I've ever met in my life. Yeah. He's just the best. And of course, you can check that out at totalengage.net. Or if you want more Vince Russo, you go to the brand. Apparently, we're back up to 10 shows a week. And even though you're moving, the work is not stopping. What's going on the brand this week?
Oh, yeah, no, we got a lot going on in the brand. And like I said, bro, I cut down on some of my shows because I really, really wanted to concentrate on the big shows. I mean, this past week, me, Ben Hameen, and Stevie Richards, bro, we spent over 2 hours on Raw and SmackDown. And, bro, we don't just critique the show. We tell you, like, this is where it went wrong and why. And this is what we would have done and why. I mean, we really, really, really thoroughly look at the show. I mean, right after this show in a couple of hours, I'm going to record Disco. We're going to talk about all the news. But, yeah, guys, check it out. It's less than $1 a week. It's russosbrand.com.
And make sure to check us out here next week on Truth with Consequences.